Have you been to Merchant, the iconic downtown cocktail bar and restaurant? Merchant helped define Madison's first settlement district with their soulful American cuisine, pioneering cocktail program, and warm hospitality. Whether you're grabbing brunch or settling in for a date night, it's a welcoming space where industry staff, locals, and visitors feel at home. Come experience Merchant in the heart of Madison's first settlement district. Learn more or make a reservation at merchantmadison.com. How much does reputation matter? When it comes to choosing an attorney, it matters a lot. That's why folks across Wisconsin have trusted the attorneys at Habish, & Rodier for nearly 100 years. While they've built a national and statewide reputation for winning cases, here in Madison, they're your neighbors. Deeply rooted in the community, their attorneys are personally committed to helping clients recover with the kind of hometown service Madison knows and loves. For all types of personal injury cases, Habish is the name locals trust. Habish, & Rodier, national reputation, hometown service. Visit Habish.com or call 1-800-2-HABISH. This is CityCast Madison. I'm Bianca Martin, and here's what Madison's talking about. Today on CityCast Madison, it's time for the Friday News Roundup, and we have made it through some muggy, rainy times. Hopefully we're in the clear. We'll see. We're very Midwestern to start on the weather, but that's what we're going to do because it's been the news. Joining me today to talk about it all is our executive producer, Haley Sperling. Hey, Haley.
Hi, Bianca. Hope everyone's staying dry.
Yes, at the moment. And our newsletter editor, Rob Thomas. Hey, Rob.
Happy Soggy Friday, Bianca.
Soggy Friday, soggy waffles, soggy basements. Rob, you're kicking us off this week with the tremendous rain.
What happened to your waffles, first of all?
I drenched them in maple syrup.
That sounds great.
That's the good kind of soggy. I like that.
Although I don't think I want a downpour of maple syrup either, so.
You should try it. No,
but yeah, it was a wet week here in Madison. It was, we had rainfall on and off all week. We should be in the clear now. I think last night, Thursday night, was supposed to be the end of it. But like all of a sudden it'd be like somebody was like pointing a fire hose at your window. It sounded like it would just come down so hard.
It was bombastic.
Bombastic, exactly. And that led to some flash flooding throughout the city where all of a sudden all this water's dropping and people aren't prepared. And of course, the most high-profile casualty was Woodman's East, which Monday night suffered a partial roof collapse. If you've seen the video, it's like incredible. Water is just rushing into the store, just like a river running down those tile floors.
It's like a blockbuster movie. It's insane.
It was.
And I had been there the day before. It's like I was just right there. It was scary.
Well, Channel 15 talked to a shopper who was there when it happened because the store was open. And this guy had just left the produce department and his cart was full to the brim because he was buying food for his entire co-op. And then he heard this big crash right behind him. He thought, a display had fallen over. Turns around and we're suddenly in a water park at the Dells. And he said that the employees reacted quickly and got customers out of the store, and the customers at least were kind of laughing about it, because nobody was hurt. It was just so bizarre. But the shopper,
thank God no one was hurt.
Yeah, absolutely.
It could have been worse. Could have been so much worse.
Yeah. The water covered, he estimated, half the store, and the store is Woodman's, which is a huge store. So that's a lot of water, right?
Yeah.
That Woodman's had done some remodeling just a couple of years ago, including on the roof. But fire department officials said what happened was the roof drains had not been cleaned properly, and stormwater had just been, pooling on that roof over time. And then, suddenly whoosh. And I remember seeing the video and thinking, well, Woodman's is going to be closed for a while they clean this up. And it seemed like at first the store thought the same thing because they were saying Tuesday the store was closed, obviously, and they were saying, go to other stores, go to the West Side, go to Sun Prairie. We're going to waive online service charges. So, it seemed like they were prepared for a long cleanup process. And then later that night, they were like, actually, you know what? We're going to be open at 6 a.m. Wednesday. Come on by, which is crazy to me. But I guess they reassessed and were like, we can clean this up. I think probably what helped was those tile floors, which, we listed among our toxic traits in Madison. probably pretty good for mopping up, right? So
gotta be easy to clean.
That's right. That's right. They were prepared for this moment. Yeah.
I feel like they should have listened to our conversation with Mercury Stardust on cleaning things on your roof.
Right.
Yes.
I did think
like
about
that home
actually.
maintenance.
Yeah.
Mercury would have told them. This story is wild because obviously footage of the eruption, the explosion, the implosion, whatever you want to say it, like it was all over the internet. But then my parents who live in Minneapolis, my dad texted me. He was like, sorry to hear about your grocery store. Apparently it had made the local news out in Minneapolis. I was
wow.
I
that's nuts.
saw it on USA Today.
Really?
Yeah.
We're famous for,
it was
for our
dramatic.
failing grocery store. It did kind of remind me of, again, bringing up Minneapolis. If you guys are familiar, way back when the roof of the Metrodome collapsed, that's exactly what this felt like to me. I was like, it's happening again.
It's our
but it's
Metrodome.
Woodman's.
Woodman's East is our
That says a
Metrodome.
lot. Yeah, that says a lot.
I was gonna say
I
it is.
concur. Yeah.
It is. It's the same thing.
I remember all those frozen pizzas. I hope they were okay.
Somebody think of the pizza.
Yeah. Getting fewer headlines, but still, I think really important was there another casualty of the flash flooding was a nonprofit called Camp Creatability, which is actually not far from Woodman's East. It's just off Cottage Grove Road, near Stoughton Road on the far east side there. And it seems like a great place. It's a place where people with autism and other disabilities can come every day and make art. And they got flooded as well. I mean, the floors were just covered with mud and it was unusable. So the owner estimated there are probably tens of thousands of dollars in damage. And they're moving to a temporary space because, it's so important for their clients to have that daily consistency, I think, to get that arts therapy and that sense of community. And she started a GoFundMe to raise money for repairs. And I think they're already over halfway there when I checked yesterday.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's
so
encouraging.
People are stepping up.
Yeah.
So, like I said, Thursday night is supposed to be the last of the flash floods for a while. Though I think I did see rain in the forecast for at least Saturday this weekend. And just a reminder, of course, that water was on the roads as well. And the city is reminding people, do not drive through flash flooded areas for fear of getting stuck in the water, which, you think but then you look and go like, oh, I can probably make it through that. And that's where you get in trouble. They said even like if you've got, a big truck or an SUV, you shouldn't drive in the water because even if the water looks okay, you don't know what's under the water, like an open manhole cover or something like that. So best thing to do is just find an alternate route or wait because what is happening is like the stormwater system is just overwhelmed by all the water. So that flash flooding can happen really quickly. Like a couple of weeks ago, I was driving my daughter to school and the roads were fine. And then just on the drive back, all of a sudden, Tacoma Road was like a reservoir.
Mm-hmm. It happens fast.
It does. It happens fast. And it also dissipates pretty fast. They said usually about 20 minutes, it'll go away. So
people should go and listen to our conversation with Andrew Beckett, Dane County Emergency Management, as Emergency Communications and Outreach Manager, because he laid out so many things to take into consideration, including just that, like avoid driving in the flash floods. And I was shook, but grateful. So you should go listen if you haven't listened to it.
Yeah. And, it is Wisconsin, so we never know what's coming. So it's just important to stay safe. How was the flooding week for you guys? How was the flood?
It wasn't too bad for me. I got caught out in the rain a little bit, but I've been staying mostly inside, mostly homebound. So it hasn't been too bad. But I mean, that Woodman's is my grocery store. So, and I had been taking advantage of their delivery for quite some time recently. And I was just like, dang, where am I going to get my food now? But thankfully, Public Health actually had a really helpful Instagram post that I shared in my story, and we can put a link to it in the show notes too, of just about like other local grocery stores that are close by and like what's on the bus line and who accepts SNAP benefits and whatnot. So it was good to have that there. But yeah, thankfully, like I didn't get caught out in the storm. I did have to drive my boyfriend back from the hospital like when it was the beginning of that downpour, and I was like, okay, don't mess this up.
No more injuries. No more injuries. Yeah. I assume I am like many other people in Madison whose basements had flooding.
Oh, wow.
We already get a little bit every now and then, but it was like, oh my God, it's coming in new places. Lord have mercy. What about you, Rob?
We were pretty good. We got a new drainage system in the basement and the new roof. So we were pretty set. So like I said, it was just sort of like, hearing it almost. And like all of a sudden out of nowhere, it's just these quick, nasty downpours. So we just had a time walking the dogs in between those and we were good.
I'm glad we're on this side of it for now, but I imagine we have more summer storms coming. But we are going to talk about budgets. We're going to talk about some spending and careful planning in a moment. Before we get into that, let's take a quick break. Have you been to Merchant, the iconic downtown cocktail bar and restaurant? Merchant helped define Madison's first settlement district as a food and drink destination. They're long known for their soulful American cuisine, pioneering cocktail program, and warm hospitality. And they're ever evolving. They've got a newly renovated space with a vibrant event roster to bring it to life. From jazz nights to DJ sets to new private event offerings, there's always fun to be had. It's a great date night destination, plus their brunch is a Madison favorite. Merchant is a place where industry staff, locals, and visitors feel at home, whether winding down with a cocktail or celebrating with friends. So what are you waiting for? Merchant's got a lot new to love and plenty of soulful roots to rediscover. Come experience Merchant in the heart of Madison's first settlement district. Learn more or make a reservation at merchantmadison.com.
Test, check 1, 2. You know you need unique New York. You know you need unique New York. Does that sound all right? Ah, that's better. You can always tell something's missing when you get isolated results. Like AI that's only right for one of your systems. Get AI that can work across your data and applications. Learn more at IBM.com. The AI built for business. IBM.
All right, y'all. Cash rules everything around me. Cream, get the money. Dollar bill. Haley, you have the news around budgets.
Dollar
city.
bills, y'all. Yeah, I've got some good money news and some bad money news. I'm feeling kind of optimistic. So let's start with the good news, because we all need a little bit of good news right now. Earlier this week, the Madison School Board approved a preliminary budget for the district of roughly $661 million for the next school year. And this budget represents an increase of about $50 million over the previous years. There are a lot of numbers in this story, of course, but what folks are probably most concerned and interested in when it comes to MMSD school budget is their property taxes. If you guys recall, last year's voters pretty overwhelmingly approved 2 budget referendums for the school district that would result in a property tax increase. And so initially, MMSD projected that this year's tax increase would be about $834 for the average Madison homeowner. But, and here's the good news, it's actually looking like it'll be closer to $729 in a property tax increase. So a little bit lower than anticipated. And again, those numbers are for the average Madison homeowner. That is someone with a house that is valued at, and you guys, I mean, my jaw was on the floor, but that's someone with a house that is valued at roughly $481,000. So if your house is less than that, you're going to be paying less in property taxes. So again, we voted for it. We voted for our schools. We wanted this, getting a little bit of boost in the money, getting boost to the schools. And again, I want to note that this is all preliminary. So the final budget will be voted on and approved and adopted in October. So we're going to be watching this story for a while. This was kind of just like one of the first big announcements that they make over the summer. And the biggest piece of this budget pie really goes towards salary and wages, which is the people behind the schools. And the second biggest expense is benefits. And so put together, those 2 items make up almost 80% of the budget. So when you're talking about like, where is the school spending all this money? Like, it is on the people. The school board also approved a 2.95% base wage increase for staff for the upcoming year, which is great because our teachers deserve every dollar they get times 10. And, as I mentioned, this is a developing story. We'll be watching this one into the fall. It doesn't seem like there's any I haven't seen any like major backlash or anything coming out about this story yet. I think also, like we said, this is something that people anticipated because we've voted for it last year and our schools need the money. So I don't know. Is any of this like super surprising to you guys? Do you have thoughts or like questions on the process?
I mean, it's not super surprising because, they asked for that money, they got it. And it's interesting because I think maybe counterintuitively, because they got that money, now I think they have to be extra careful to show that they're spending money wisely.
Sure.
Because like people made this big investment and they have to show that they're doing a good job. But like, I think that base wage increase, that's the most that they could have gotten under state law, if I understand right, for public salary negotiations. So, so it's interesting. And I'm not sure what happens between now and October necessarily, but
it's basically like more deliberations. I think they kind of just go back, they get more feedback. And also, if anyone out there listening does have feedback on this budgetary process for MMSD, they make it really easy for you to be able to share your thoughts. I can throw a link to that in our show notes, but you can just go in and say like, I don't like this, or I am confused by this. And you can share your feedback with the school board, which is pretty neat. And I think they've tried to be pretty collaborative and pretty open and transparent about this process because, looking into these numbers, it's kind of like, what am I looking at? What am I doing? I think the school board has done a pretty decent job at explaining where things are going. And, like I mentioned, we voted for this. People approved it. Overall, people do want our schools to have more money, which is great because we want educated kids.
Great.
Yeah, and you asked if we were surprised. My answer to that is in terms of, I mean, you shared a lot of things, but in terms of most of the money going towards staff, it makes a lot of sense considering we've heard so much consternation about staffing numbers and being short, needing substitutes and not even having enough substitutes. Like the pressure on the systems can be drawn back to the people and how you're taking care of them, especially after, the pandemic and everything that our teachers have gone through. And that our schools are kind of the first line of defense for a lot of kids in terms of all of, social needs that are maybe not met. So not surprised, grateful to see, that the money is going in that direction. And frankly, when you said it's coming up in October, that's going to be here in a flash. Like we're already almost July. We're past the summer solstice. Like October's going to be here so soon. I'm not ready.
Thankfully, we're not there yet. Yes, there's a lot to take in with this one. My main takeaway with this is that, budgets are hard, but our teachers are working harder. There's never enough money for everything, but MMSD seems to be heading in a good direction. So like I said, overall, I think this is a good news story. But you guys, you remember I said there's also some bad news. Are we ready for our bad news? Yeah. So you're ready. We're shifting gears a little bit to talk about higher education and UW-Madison specifically. So our state's flagship university, as in UW-Madison, announced earlier this week that it will be tightening its budgetary belt. UW leadership sent out a memo to all faculty and staff saying that departments must cut their budgets between 5 and 7% next year. This isn't a huge surprise for anyone at UW because leadership had sent out a memo before saying, hey, we might ask you to cut your budget anywhere between 5 to 10% next year. So what they're actually asking for did come in on the lower end of those cut percentages. Chancellor Jennifer Mnuchin said, quote, we continue to face immense financial uncertainty and risks. And a lot of those uncertainty is coming from the federal government. And that is in the form of potential changes to federal indirect reimbursements, which we had this really long conversation with Dr. Joe Handelsman from the Wisconsin Institute of Discovery about what that means. And so this can cost the university anywhere between $65 to $130 million or more. And again, this is all for research expenses. And mind you, UW's research enterprise is ranked 6th in the country. So like, this is a pretty big deal. In addition to that federal uncertainty, There's also a risk of additional grant terminations, freezes, and stop work orders. UW has already seen more than 90 awards facing a stop work order or termination since January. So we are already seeing the effects of federal mandates, trickling down into our university. There's also ongoing questions about international students' ability to study in the United States. That is a whole podcast in itself, but also international students are a big source of income for the university. They are paying a lot of money in tuition. And on top of that, there's still uncertainty regarding potential tariffs, which could have major cascading impacts on the construction that's happening across the university. And that's happening all across our city for the university.
I'm sure that with all this uncertainty, our state government's going to step up and say, hey, we got you. We know this is a major economic driver in Wisconsin, and we've got this $3 billion surplus we're sitting on. We got your back, right?
Yeah, that's sassy Rob, isn't it? Right? Because I was about to say, on top of all of that, there's the state budget. And the state legislature is really no friend to UW or the Universities of Wisconsin, aka the UW system. That budget, the state's budget, is currently in the works, and Republicans who are in control of our legislature, they don't want to give UW money. Assembly Speaker Robin Vos recently said Republicans in his caucus would support cutting funding for the universities of Wisconsin by $87 million. So pretty much the opposite of what you just said, Rob. You would think, yeah, the state's got this huge budget surplus. UW and the system as a whole is begging for cash, looking for ways to tighten its budget. And Robin Vos said, what if we cut more?
Did they give reasons for that, or just kind of muscle memory at this point?
I think it is just muscle memory at this point. And also, I think there's still this ongoing question and kind of tension battle between the Republicans and the legislatures not liking the, I guess, quote unquote, liberal ideologies that is being spread at universities and other institutes of higher education, which is just pretty silly to me. UW has really been kind of actively pushing back against that sentiment. They actually released this kind of big report that measures UW-Madison specifically impact on the state. They estimated that for every dollar that the state invests in UW-Madison, UW gives back almost $27 to the state. So that's roughly a $30 billion economic impact in the state of Wisconsin. Again, those numbers are coming from UW-Madison, so they want to look good. But I mean, it's on point, right? For every dollar that they are spending, we're getting it back. It's a good solid return on investment.
It's just so frustrating because it's just it's cutting off your nose to spite your face.
Yeah.
It's like when we hear about federal government's going to withhold money from California and Minnesota. It's like, oh, you mean the states that take way less than they generate for the federal government?
Right.
And it's one of those things when you're talking about how much UW-Madison and the UW system generates for the state, it just feels insane that they would be the target. That said, we remember, right, Republican Assembly Speaker Robin Vos has said that he's embarrassed to be a graduate of the University of Wisconsin system because of its participation in programs that promote diversity. So there's obviously this ire there, and it continues to be. And we've seen, a lot of people, including students on campus, say that they want to see more from UW, the system, and pushing back and fighting back in terms of just okay, we're going to be quieter and smaller because it doesn't look like it's working.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it seems almost as if I think a lot of students, like you mentioned, Bianca, are seeing or think the university is just sort of complying in advance, right? They haven't been asked to do anything, but they're still kind of stepping down and being quiet. But also, as we can see, there's a lot of money at stake here. So again, in their statement, UW leadership said that they hope that these budget cuts can be achieved by, quote, trimming non-personnel expenses and leaving some vacancies unfulfilled, unquote. Though they noted this won't be easy for departments. And obviously this will impact the day-to-day operations of the university. 5 to 7% cuts, that's no joke across the board. So it's a big old yikes from me. It sucks for so many reasons, especially in this like economic time when people are looking for jobs. Like the state of Wisconsin and the universities of Wisconsin just used to be such a reliable place that folks could go for employment, like good paying jobs. And now just seeing that like they're not going to be hiring. They're going to be leaving stuff frozen. The UW has already stopped, non-essential travel and whatnot. So it's just really kind of coming at the expense of those employees. Even if they're saying that they don't want to cut personnel, they're already going to be feeling it.
Well, a lot of decisions are coming down, and including decisions from the state Supreme Court. One of those cases is regarding money for literacy in our state. So we're going to talk about that. But before we do, let's take a quick break.
My day kicks off with a refreshing Celsius energy drink, then straight to the gym. Pre-K pickup, back home to meal prep. Time for my fire station shift. One more Celsius, gotta keep the lights on. When the 3-alarm hits, I'm ready. Celsius. Live, fit, go. Grab a cold, refreshing Celsius at your local retailer or locate now at Celsius.com.
Are you still quoting 30-year-old movies? Have you said cool beans in the past 90 days? Do you think Discover isn't widely accepted? If this sounds like you, you're stuck in the past. Discover is accepted at 99% of places that take credit cards nationwide. And every time you make a purchase with your card, you automatically earn cash back. Welcome to the now. It pays to Discover. Learn more at discover.com/credit card, based on the February 2024 Nielsen report.
All right, y'all, we're back. We've talked weather, budgets, and now we're going to talk about what's happening at the Wisconsin Supreme Court because they've come down with a couple of big decisions. You might have heard us say this already on the podcast, that the court is dang near the end of their session. They typically wrap at the end of June, and they have an untypical amount of outstanding cases at this point in time. The news is 2 big decisions came down this week, one regarding the governor's use of his partial veto power, and one case on the DNR's ability to regulate the cleanup of forever chemicals, like talking about PFAS. So as of this recording, I have to note we have not heard anything about the outcome of our state's 1849 abortion ban. But as soon as they do, we here on CityCast Madison, we are going to keep you updated with information that you need. I do have to, before I dive into these other cases that came down this week, have to ask, pulse check. Are y'all kind of sitting on the edge of your seat about when this abortion ban ruling is going to come down? Because I am about to fall off my chair.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, we were talking about it just the other day as a group, right? In one of our pitch meetings, like this is the story that we're all watching, waiting, anticipating what's going to happen here. And you mentioned the clock is kind of ticking, right? It would be very rare and maybe not to the court's benefit to extend this deliberation any further. So maybe something will come out today. Maybe it'll be next week. Fingers crossed. I mean, it's got to happen soon. But like, oh my goodness, we're waiting. We're waiting.
They love drama over there. They love to keep us waiting till
the drama,
the season finale of the Wisconsin Supreme Court.
The season finale for the court could be the series finale for reproductive rights in this state. We will see.
Yeah. Do they love drama or does drama love them? Drama comes to the court and they have to handle it. No, they love drama. That's why there's all, you guys know I like Suits. Watching it all day long. Let's get into what was decided this week. I'll start with the case regarding the governor's partial veto power, aka his unique power to reject certain parts of the legislature's appropriation bills, which is the bills where they appropriate money. So the court handed down a unanimous decision that the governor overstepped his bounds of power in making partial veto changes to a literacy funding bill back in 2023. So this is around his use of the partial veto on a funding bill that was not specifically an appropriations bill, and they found that to be unconstitutional. So in 2023, the governor moved to send $50 million to the Department of Public Instruction for literacy in our state, but because of how he did it, that money's not getting there. In response to this outcome, the governor's basically said, sorry, not sorry. His quote is, I'll never apologize for fighting for kids in schools. So, that is, obviously a blow to the Department of Public Instruction. The past 2 years, they've been trying to get $50 million released to them, and it's not going to happen. Republican state leadership found this outcome encouraging, naturally, because they were pushing against giving that money away, saying that the court's decision was, quote, a rebuke of the governor's attempt to break apart a bipartisan literacy funding bill. They're like, get your hands out of our cookie jar. You're not allowed here. So too long didn't read. The veto power is just pretty controversial, and it's the target of a lot of lawsuits because it's gone beyond just line item cuts to adding numbers, cutting certain words, changing punctuation. So this outcome doesn't really change that we have a literacy crisis, but this is what the courts decided, and they're going to have to figure that out some other way. You guys are both editors. I mean, think about the power to change anything and everything. The legislature and the Supreme Court's like, Governor Evers, nah, you can't.
I mean, it kind of reminds me of that classic, like, when to use a comma. It's like, let's eat grandma, or let's eat grandma, and so
Right.
some punctuation has to be there. Some of these figures do have to be there. And, this just goes to show, though, that such a small change can have a huge impact. We're not eating grandma, right?
I don't know. I would pay attention to the legislature. You never know what they're going to come up with.
All right, well, the second big decision that came down is in another realm around questions with authority. The court sided with the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources in a case against the state's biggest business lobby, the Wisconsin Manufacturing and Commerce Lobby, on the issue of forever chemicals or PFAS cleanup. So the court went against some of the lower court's earlier decisions, who originally sided with the lobbying group. The issue at hand was whether or not the DNR, under the state's current spill laws, could make businesses and landowners clean up PFAS on their land before, what they say, is going through the proper channels of listing the chemicals as hazardous first through the state's rulemaking process. So that's why this lobbying group was suing. And the state Supreme Court, in a 5-2 decision, all 4 liberals and 1 conservative voted the DNR can. They can do this, and they can make you clean this up before getting that through the traditional administrative rulemaking process. So this lobbying group, the Wisconsin Manufacturing and Commerce, they are basically saying, how can we enforce rules and standards that are not spelled out? And this outcome was, quote, fundamentally unfair, that they're making people in Wisconsin be mind readers about what's hazardous. And the court just didn't buy that. They're like, no, the DNR can say what's hazardous before going through what can be a years-long process. Are you guys following? Like, are y'all sold on the idea that, that people have to be mind readers about PFAS? Like, if they have PFAS on their land, if they're contributing to it, that they might be doing something that they're going to be responsible for?
I mean, my thought here is that if you make a mess, clean it up. It doesn't matter if you spill dirt, if you spill water, if it's orange juice, if it's chemical waste, like, you're going to have to clean it up no matter what. And I mean, the thing about this is that, like, going through the quote unquote proper channels of getting something designated as a hazardous material, like, that can take months to years. And during that time, people in this area, these business owners, are going to be suffering the consequences, the unknown consequences of leaving these messes out. And so I think this is a win for everyone. I agree with the court, honestly, in the fact that they're like, nah, man, like, again, you made a mess. Someone can ask you to clean it up. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter if it's designated hazardous or not. Like, you got to clean it up. And also, that's just a risk you take on as a business owner. That's how the cookie crumbles.
Yeah, it introduces politics into the process too, because then the legislature can step in and then that hold things up and, like you said, just clean up your mess. It shouldn't be something that can be lobbied before or against.
Hear ye, Haley. That's not the right thing to say, but I'm with you. I'm with both of you. The fact that corporations, look, like, I also appreciate small business and what it takes to, be successful in business in our state, and we want to protect that and support that. And businesses and corporations have been externalizing the costs of their profits for so long.
Right.
And so, environmental advocates are definitely seeing this as a big win. And, we should know that on the federal level, the EPA has already established PFAS as toxic and has laid out levels and the pollution that comes from PFAS. There are some things that are unknown, but the fact that it's a toxin, that is known. So to wait 3 years to be like, yep, it was hazardous. We know it's hazardous. And there are a growing number of communities with charted PFAS pollution who are waiting on action today.
And Madison's included on that list.
Madison is included. Yeah, we've got wells that have been noted as higher than above board levels of PFAS. And so, this is something that definitely impacts our city right here. So when we're talking about water quality and pollutants in Madison, multiple Dane County beaches, including many in Madison, are closed as of this week on account of quality and safety. A number of beaches are going to be closed until levels of E. coli or blue-green algae decrease. So we have unsafe waters, y'all, and we have to be thoughtful about this. I want to share the list of closed beaches that I got as of Wednesday of this week, and know that some of these beaches, you might not know their name, but you could be going to them. So the list is Bernie's, Esther Beach, James Madison Beach, Lake Mendona County Park, Marshall, Spring Harbor, Warner, Willows Beach, and the Tong Marina T-Dock. So those are some beaches. If you hang out there, watch out. I'm bringing this up just in part, just so everyone is mindful, even if the place that you're going to is not on that list. It's useful to check conditions. Public Health Madison and Dane County test the local beaches and lake access points from Memorial Day to Labor Day. So stay safe, stay up to date, use common sense too. Look before you swim. If it's murky, definitely double check. There was a note also to apparently avoid swimming after heavy rainfall. Obviously we talked about the heavy rains and what can be in the water, and we just don't know. And just look out for closed signs. So if you want to check conditions, go to the website publichealthmdc.com. We'll also throw that into our show notes, but be mindful that there are a number of beaches closed right now.
Yeah, and shout out to Public Health Madison and Dane County for keeping an eye on that. Like you said, Bianca, they do the monitoring all season to keep us safe. And it's not just keeping us safe. Keep your dogs out of the water. Keep your kids out of the water. This stuff is gross. It is nasty. And it will make you sick. It could kill your animals. It's serious stuff. So check the website before heading out. And like you said, look with your eyes.
Yes, I love that shout out and double down because they're looking out for our neighbors. And we also have our neighbors, our members here who have shout outs for people in the community. And we want to get those rolling. I'll just get us started with Jeff H. He's got a shout out that says, I appreciate that Metcalf's in Hilldale not only features local food products, but also displays the number of miles away from the product's source. If you can't find it at Hilldale, it can't be found.
Okay, Jeff.
I like that. Lori F. wants to shout out Treehouse Arbor Science. Said, great job caring for our trees, quick to respond, and lovely to work with.
And lastly, we have a shout out from Sophie B, who wanted to share some love to Conscious Carnivore. She said they have incredible meat and very knowledgeable staff. So shout out to all of these shout outs. These are some solid businesses.
Madison's a bunch of conscientious folks. We love it. We also have to give a major shout out to 2 new CityCast Madison neighbors. Welcome to the squad, Robin K. and Eric O. Thank you.
Hey.
Robin shared their reason actually for becoming a neighbor, saying they were, quote, born and raised in Madison, and witnessing the growth of our wonderful city is inspiring to watch. And supporting CityCast Madison is a way to keep me connected to our community and what is important to our everyday lives. Thank you, Robin. Thank you for supporting our work. Thank you, everyone. And about caring for our community. We really appreciate it. If you're out there and you have not joined the neighborhood, you still can. All you have to do is head to membership.citycast.fm, become one of our neighbors. It's the best way to support our work. Other than shouting your love for us from the rooftops or coming to windows and playing our podcast on big speakers, no, we really appreciate it. And while we're talking about shout outs, it's going to get kind of loud around Camp Randall this weekend. And Haley, you got the word on that.
Yes, and we are shockingly not even talking about football. Country music star Morgan Wallen will have 2 concerts at Camp Randall Stadium this weekend on Saturday, June 28th and Sunday, June 29th. Do you guys like Morgan Wallen? Are you familiar with his music?
Oh, I'm familiar. He's controversial.
He is
So I
controversial.
plead
We
the
don't have the
fifth.
time to get into that, but I will say
when he fled the stage at SNL, that was sort of, I don't know if you guys saw that. I was like, okay, I don't know what this guy's up to, but yeah.
Yeah, I was reading actually before we got on here, like a Business Insider article that literally was like a timeline of Morgan Wallen's controversies. And you would think that like for someone who's been in the spotlight for such a short amount of time, you wouldn't have that long of an article. It was a long article. But like it or not, he'll be closing down streets around Camp Randall. So please note, again, this weekend, if you need to get across town, if you're going over in that area, there are going to be streets that are closed. Here's just a quick list of streets that will be impacted. They include North Randall Avenue, North Breeze Terrace, Monroe Street, and Regent Street. So some pretty major street closures there. Each of these streets have specific closure times. And for all of those details, we'll put a link in our show notes to the city website that goes into the details of the situation. So shout out to anyone that's going to the concert. This is our first big Camp Randall concert in decades, which is pretty exciting. Go off Morgan Wallen, I guess.
And while we're going off, you guys are the best. I feel really good about this roundup.
Yeah, I was thinking this is our first roundup back in a minute. Like we didn't have one last week.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. You guys truly are the best. And for y'all out there listening, you are too. We really love doing this work. And we want to let you know that if you think that we're the best, we've got an ask. It's the final week to vote for us in Madison Magazine's Best of Madison 2025 contest. It's like kind of a thing. It's a big thing. Like it means something and it matters. And if you're excited about our work, if you love these offerings that we bring to you every day, we're talking about the podcast, we're talking about our newsletter, would you vote for us? We're nominated in 2 categories, y'all. CityCast Madison for Best Local Podcast and our newsletter Madison Minutes for Best Local News Website. Help us make history. The link to vote is in our show notes. Y'all, I'm turning back to you. Thanks for rounding up the news with me. Haley Sperling, you're a gem.
No, back at you, Bianca. Thank you.
And Rob Thomas, you shine bright.
Oh, thank you, Bianca. You too.
That's all for today here on CityCast Madison. I'm Bianca Martin, your host. We're produced by Jade Isiri Ramos, Lizzie Goldsmith, and Selena Saya Reynolds. Haley Sperling is our executive producer. Our theme music is by Carl Christensen. Additional music this week by LaPorte Xavier, Simon the Jester, and Ophelia from Triple Scoop Music via Getty Images. Rob Thomas is our newsletter editor, with help this week from Will Fulton. You can get more news delivered right to your inbox by subscribing to Madison Minutes. And if you enjoyed today's show, why not share this podcast with someone who shines bright in the city of Madison. We love it. All right, see you back here Monday morning with more news from around the city. Until then, have a great weekend.